there, my name's Sarah, and first off, a quick thank you for 200 subscribers. Let's celebrate with a little more animation, shall we? I talked about Clip Studio Paint's keyframe animation in my earlier videos, but let's dive a bit deeper. I'll be creating this cute little animated dragon, which could be used as an emote, sticker, or reaction GIF. To animate a character with keyframes, all of the parts that move need to be on their own separate layer. My dragon has 6 pieces. The 2 parts of the egg, the head, the body, and 2 wings. Head to the link in the description to download a copy of this Clip Studio file if you'd like to follow along. With keyframes, you can make each layer move, rotate, and scale however you want. But the real power of keyframe animations is that you can use it on folders and chain multiple animations together. Let me show you how it works. If you're following along with the file download, I've arranged the pieces as though the dragon is squished down behind the egg layers, making it look like they're inside of the egg. First, let's organize the layers into a hierarchy. The top eggshell will be balanced on the dragon's head, so I'll start by making a folder and putting these 2 pieces in it. I'll call this folder Head. Next, I'll want to move all of the pieces of the dragon together, so I'll make a folder and put the head folder in it, along with the dragon's body and wings. I'll name this one Dragon. Finally, if the egg moves, the dragon will too, so I'll make a final, main folder to put both the egg bottom and the dragon in, and call it Base. Then, we'll need an animation timeline. If you don't see the timeline palette, go to the Window menu and click Timeline. Click this button to create a new animation timeline. I'm going with a frame rate of 8 and a playback time of 24 frames, which is a 3-second animation. Check out my animation overview tutorial for more about frame rates. When you're working on a short animation with several layers, it can be helpful to see the timeline vertically instead. Click the Palette's tab and drag it to reposition it at the side of your workspace. You can then hover over the edge until it turns into a double arrow like this, and drag to resize it. Use the spacebar to turn your cursor into a hand to move the view, and use Ctrl plus spacebar to enable zooming in and out. This may take a little practice to get the hang of, but learning to reposition parts of your workspace like this can save you a lot of time in the long run. Keyframe animation means we'll be using our folders and layers as objects. Go to the Operation tool and make sure the Object subtool is selected. Click on the Base folder. On the timeline, click Enable Keyframes on this layer to turn it into an animatable object. An object can be moved, rotated, and resized, and it has a center of rotation or pivot point. To make animating them easier, let's go through and adjust the pivot points now. Imagine where you want the base layer to rotate. If we want the egg to rock back and forth, we can click and drag the pivot point to the bottom. Notice that a blue diamond indicating a keyframe has appeared on the timeline for the base folder. If yours isn't at frame 1, you can click and drag it to move it there. Also, if your keyframe isn't blue, click this drop-down and choose Smooth Interpolation, then click the Add Keyframe button here. More on that later. A keyframe will appear at the location of the red playhead anytime you change any aspect of a layer that has keyframe animation enabled. Now hide the 2 egg layers so we can see the dragon. You can hide a layer by clicking the eye in the Layer palette or the Timeline palette. They do the same thing. I'm skipping around a little because not all layers will be animated separately from the folder they're in. It'll make more sense as we start animating. Click the Head folder, the whole folder, not just the head layer, and move the pivot point about here where it might join the neck. Because the base folder has keyframes on, all child folders and layers will inherit this trait, so a keyframe appears here too. The dragon's body will be controlled by the dragon folder, so select that, and place the pivot point in the center mass of the body. Next, hide the head folder and the dragon body layer so we can see the wings. Their position may seem a little strange, but trust me, it'll look right when we animate it. If the object you're animating is just one small piece, like each wing, you may want to convert it to a file object. Right-click on the layer, go to File Object, and select Convert Layer to File Object. Make sure Area is set to Drawing Area, and Keep Original Layer is unchecked, and hit OK. Save the layer as a separate .clip file. If you get this message, just hit OK. Now we've got a much more compact object for the wing and can move the pivot point into position at the wing's base as usual. Converting parts of the animation to file objects is optional, but it's useful to know about. I'll do the same for the right wing. I'll also unhide the egg top layer and convert it to a file object. Its pivot point is fine where it is, but we'll still want a starting keyframe on this layer, so click the Add Keyframe button. Now make all of the layers visible except the egg top. We'll get back to that one. First, we want the dragon to pop out of the egg. Select the dragon folder. Move the playhead to frame 8. Hover the cursor over the edge of the object's bounding box to get the move icon, and click and drag to move the dragon up. Notice a second keyframe has appeared on the timeline. Keyframes indicate the start and end point of an animation, and the computer calculates the path in between. There are 3 keyframe types: smooth, linear, and hold. They affect how your animation moves between keyframes. Smooth has a natural slowdown near keyframes, linear moves evenly, and hold simply jumps from one position to the next. You can change between them using the drop-down I showed earlier. We'll just be using smooth interpolation for this animation. When you do a quick animated movement, you'll often want to overshoot a little to emphasize momentum. This is an animation principle called follow-through. Go to frame 6 and move the dragon up just a bit higher than its final location. Now I'll preview the animation. Quick hint, you can drag the blue brackets to just play a portion of your animation. Click the play button to see it in action. Right now, the head is tucked down, but we want it to rise up too. Make sure you're on frame 8, select the head folder, and move it up. Notice how the head is still moving up with the body, but it has its own independent motion too. I'll add a little follow-through with the head on frame 6 too, so it looks more natural. Back on frame 8, I'll also rotate the dragon's head a bit. Note the tilt only happens once we reach frame 6 because there's already a keyframe there. Now you may like how that looks, but what if you wanted the head to start turning right away? Click the plus button here, then the drop-down next to it. As you can see here, you're creating not one but several keyframes for each motion, for the position, scale, rotation, and pivot point. There's one for opacity too. Left-click on the middle keyframe next to rotate to select it, then right-click on it and choose Delete. Now the rotation starts at frame 1 instead. Also, take note that the top keyframe has changed shape, indicating that not every property on that frame has a keyframe. Now select the left wing and go to frame 8. Move and rotate the wing to its final position. You can add a little follow-through at frame 6 too. Do the same with the wing on the right. Unhide the egg top. Since it's a child of the head folder, it follows the head's motion and tilt already. On frame 10, I'll move it into a better position and actually shrink it a little to keep it out of the way of the dragon's face. And then on frame 8, a little overshoot, making it look like the egg top bounced up a bit before settling on the dragon's head. See how moving these frames out a little adds a nice secondary motion? The dragon is moving, and the egg is reacting to that movement just a moment later. At the end of the animation, the dragon will pop back down into the shell. The easiest way to do this is to reverse the frames. If you drag the blue bracket in to shorten your animation, make sure you drag it back out now. Left-click on the first keyframe on frame 8 to select it. Hold down the Shift key and click on each of the other keyframes on frame 8 to add them to the selection. Skip the egg top layer for now. Hold down the Alt key, then click and drag the keyframes over to frame 16. This makes a duplicate copy of the keyframes. Do the same with the keyframes from frame 1, duplicating them over to frame 21. Again, skip the egg top and also the keyframe on the base layer. I'll also copy the overshoot keyframes, moving them to frame 18. This slight raise up before the downward motion is an animation technique called anticipation. It's kind of the opposite of follow-through. Think of it like how you have to crouch your body a bit before you jump. Now, the top of the eggshell needs to get back into position. Since the dragon moves so fast, I'd like the shell to hover for a moment before following, another type of follow-through animation. Copy the egg top keyframe from frame 10 to frame 18, and the one from frame 1 to frame 23. Because the eggshell is attached to the head, we'll have to add a few extra keyframes here to manually keep it up in the air. Starting at frame 19, move the egg back up to the top of the canvas. Repeat this for frames 20 and 21, moving it down just a little each time. Now the top pauses for just an extra moment before quickly falling back down to the shell. Go to frame 24 and lift and rotate the shell just a smidge to give it a nice bounce. The dragon jumps straight into the action a little too soon, so one more thing I'll do is select all of the keyframes before the halfway mark by clicking and dragging, and move them over 2 frames. That's much better. I'm going to finish off my animation by using the base folder to add a gentle rocking motion, and I'll also add a little more movement to the wings. Here's the finished animation. And yes, if you layer a bunch of keyframe animation, it might be a little hard for an older computer to keep up. Don't worry, when the animation is saved, it'll play nice and smooth. To save it, go to the File menu and hover over Export Animation. You'll see a few options which I explain in more detail in my animation overview video. Check the platform you intend to upload it to for the correct file format and size. The ones I checked, like Discord and Twitch, both preferred Animated GIF as the file format, so we'll choose that one. And good news, as of Clip Studio Paint version 2.1, animated GIFs can now save with transparency. Select the location for your file and click Save. Here you can resize your finished GIF. Discord recommends 128 by 128, so we'll go with that. Be sure to match the export range and frame rate to your animation, in this case, frames 1 through 24 and 8 FPS. If your image has color gradients, saving it with dithering turned on can make it look much nicer at the expense of a larger file size. I always try both to see which I prefer. Check the box at the bottom to save the GIF with transparency. And that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed following along, and I'd love to see your animations, so tag me at Ms.RedNebula on Twitter, Instagram, or Mastodon and show me your work. Bye for now. A big thank you to all of my patrons, with a special shout out to Nova Tier patron Joe C. Phipps. Check out my Patreon if you'd like to help support future content like this.